This week, the Vatican rolls out new rules about its finances. Paul VI moves closer to sainthood, and Mahmoud Abbas meets the Pope. Welcome to Vatican Connections and this week's look at what's been happening inside the papal offices this week. I'm your Vatican Connection, Alicia Ambrosio. Now, Thursday morning, several faithful men and women moved closer to sainthood. Among them, Pope Paul VI. During a meeting with the prefect for the Congregation for Saints' Causes, the Pope recognized the heroic virtues of Giovanni Battista Montini, better known as Pope Paul VI. With this decree, he becomes Venerable Paul VI. If a miracle is attributed to his intercession, he could be beatified. The Pope also recognized miracles for 8 people, 3 of whom can now be declared saints, including Blessed Mother Laura Montoya, who is the first blessed to be born, live, and die in Colombia. The Pope also recognized the martyrdom of 33 men and women who were victims of the Spanish Civil War. Money matters were front and center at the Vatican this week, and there are new rules about how the Vatican will handle its money. Technically, the new norms were drawn up in February, but are only being made public this week. On Tuesday, the Vatican's Secretary of State, Cardinal Tarcisio Bertone, addressed the heads of all the Vatican dicasteries to explain why these rules were drawn up. Cardinal Bertone said the Church does not have its own property, but it does own things and have assets through the various legal entities and organizations that make up the Church. The Prefecture for Economic Affairs was created by Pope Paul VI in 1967 after Vatican II, when it became clear that the Holy See needed better money management. Then, in 1988, Pope John Paul II issued Pastor Bonus, outlining the prefecture's functions in more detail. But over time, these norms led to the prefecture acting as more of a central accounting office for the Vatican than anything else. Cardinal Bertone said the new norms are a return to the original spirit in which the Prefecture for Economic Affairs was created, to provide transparency in the Vatican's economic transactions and to comply with the international standards for financial control. Now, back in September, you might recall that the Vatican appointed Swiss lawyer René Brühlhardt to advise the Vatican on matters related to anti-money laundering measures and countering the funding of terrorism. Cardinal Bertone said that transparency in the Holy See's financial matters gives it increased credibility to spread its mission to spread the gospel. And Pope Benedict XVI met with the president of the Palestinian Authority, Mahmoud Abbas, just this past Monday. It was the second time the two men have met at the Vatican. In a press release, the Holy See said that the Pope and Abbas discussed the recent United Nations resolution making the Palestinian Authority a non-member observer state. They also spoke about the current situation in the region and the contribution of Christian communities. Reportedly, Abbas made the visit to the Vatican as part of a tour to visit and personally thank the world leaders who supported the UN resolution recognizing the Palestinian Authority as an observer. It was also reported this week that the Vatican has signed an agreement with China. Now, it is true, the Vatican has signed a cultural and administrative agreement with the Republic of China, better known as Taiwan. The Vatican does not have formal diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China. This agreement was signed between the Congregation for Catholic Education and the Ministry of Education in Taipei. The agreement is focused on the recognition of university degrees and grades between the two countries. Several papal messages were also released this week. One is the message for the World Day of Prayer for Vocations, which will be held April 1st, 2013. The second message is for the World Day of Peace, which is celebrated January 1st every year. He said true peacemakers defend life at every stage and promote the common good through their economic policies and activities. He also said true peacemakers need to take a new look at the role of the traditional family in handing on values that promote peace. The Pope also wrote an article for Britain's Financial Times newspaper. The editorial offices asked if the Pope would write an opinion piece for the paper just before Christmas, and the Pope accepted, even though it was what the Vatican is calling an unusual request. The title of his article is A Time for Christians to Engage in the World. He said that Jesus cautioned against the politicization of the religion and the deification of power. And the Christmas stories in the New Testament remind us about this. He said Christians find inspiration for their daily lives in the gospel and pointed out that Christians fight poverty because they recognize the dignity of every human being. When Christians refuse to bow down to demands of political leaders, it's not because of an old world view, but because Christians are free from the constraints of ideology. Now, it's that time of year to look back at what happened over the last 12 months, and Catholic News Service brings us the year in review.
If I had to sum up the message that Pope Benedict sent over the course of 2012 in the decisions he made and the words he spoke and wrote, I would say it was above all the importance of three values: religious liberty, Catholic identity, and evangelization. From January to May, the Pope gave 4 speeches to U.S. bishops visiting him at the Vatican. And the main theme was that the Church in America has to engage all the more closely with an increasingly secular society for the benefit of the whole nation, among other ways, by defending the value of religious liberty.
Of particular concern are certain attempts being made to limit that most cherished of American freedoms, the freedom of religion. Many of you have pointed out that concerted efforts have been made to deny the right of conscientious objection on the part of Catholic individuals and institutions with regard to cooperation in intrinsically evil practices.
The Pope called 2 consistories in February and November, at which he created a total of 28 new members of the College of Cardinals, including 4 from North America.
You can only see anything that, from a human point of view, might be considered an elevation or an honor or a promotion. In the vocabulary of the gospel, that's simply a call to more expanded service.
For 3 weeks in October, the World Synod of Bishops on the New Evangelization brought more than 260 bishops and religious superiors to the Vatican to talk about how the Church can revive and spread Catholic faith in increasingly secular societies.
The call to the new evangelization doesn't make sense unless you're calling people to something. If we're going to be talking about inviting people back, we have to have some place to which we invite them. And that's the Church.
Did you know the Vatican Bank is actually called the Institute for Works of Religion and offers a limited set of services? A diocese or religious congregation can open an account, but individuals must go through a strict set of background checks that get reviewed to make sure they still qualify for the Vatican bank account. Christmas preparations are underway at the Vatican. The preacher of the papal household, Raniero Cantalamessa, has been giving weekly Advent meditations to the papal household and the cardinals and the bishops who also live and work at the Vatican. But the biggest sign that Christmas is upon us is the giant Christmas tree that has been set up in St. Peter's Square. Last Friday at sunset, the official tree lighting ceremony was held in the piazza, complete with music by the Vatican Police Band. Every year, a different region of Italy donates the tree. This year, the tree was donated by the region of Molise, a small region southeast of Rome. Specifically, the town of Pescopenetaro donated the 78-foot silver fir. Bishop Giuseppe Sciacca, the Secretary General of the office that runs Vatican's city-state, presided over the tree lighting, and Angelo Maria di Tullio, a poet from the town that donated the tree, read a poem he wrote about the tree growing for decades so that it could one day represent the townspeople at the Vatican. Pope Benedict didn't attend the tree lighting, but he did meet with the entire town in a special audience earlier in the day. Now, the town has a population of 350, But there were 450 people at the audience with the Pope, and the Pope seemed a little bit surprised by that. He told the town that the light of Christ has not dimmed in 2,000 years, but Christians today do have an obligation to make sure that that light does not get extinguished. He said God became human and lived among us to scatter the darkness of our sin, bringing humanity his divine light. Alongside the tree, still shrouded away from the curious eyes, is the Vatican's nativity scene. Like the tree, the nativity scene is donated by a different town or region every year, and this year it comes from the town of Matera in the Basilicata region. Matera is famous for its rocky cliffs and its churches and grottos and buildings carved out of the mountainside. Reportedly, the nativity scene will depict Matera's unique landscape and the hardworking, simple life of the farmers and craftsmen who live there. The nativity scene will be unveiled on Christmas Eve. A lot of action will be going on inside the basilica as well. The Vatican Floreria, that is, the department that prepares St. Peter's Basilica and Square for papal liturgies, is working full steam to get ready for next week's celebrations, and we'll have more on the Floreria a little bit later in the program. But we can tell you that one of the celebrations that will take place at St. Peter's Basilica is a prayer service with the youth affiliated with the Taizé community. Pope Benedict will preside over the prayer service. Now, if you've never heard of Taizé, not to worry. CNS spoke to one of the members of Taizé and put together this introduction.
Taizé is the name of a village in Burgundy, first of all, a small village of about 100 inhabitants, and that's where our founder, Brother Roger, came in 1940 and had this idea of a community, a monastic community that would be a sign of reconciliation for Christians and a sign of peace in the world. So today we're a community of about 100 brothers from 25 different countries, and we're ecumenical, so Catholic, Anglican, Lutheran, Reformed brothers living together. And Taizé has also become a place where lots of people come for a week of retreat, of prayer, and so on, mostly young people between 17 and 30 years old. There's still a thirst in young people for meaning in their life. Many young people today are worried about the future, their own personal future and the future of humanity, and so I think they feel the need to come together and look for hope. Ecumenism in the narrow sense doesn't interest the young people. They don't like to discuss the differences between the Christian denominations. They don't know much about that. They're not interested in it. But I think they're interested in something that's universal, and they know that people come from Taizé, from all the Christian traditions, different backgrounds, and so on. But the basic attraction, I would say, of Taizé is a spiritual one for the young people, discovering what faith is all about, what does it mean to believe, what's the meaning of my life, those kinds of questions.
Time to find out who got a new job this week and who's going where with a look at the nominations and resignations. Monsignor Nicholas Thevenin has served as a Nunciature Counselor in Congo, Belgium, Cuba, and Bulgaria, as well as the Secretary of State's Section for Relations with Nations. Now, Pope Benedict has elevated him to the dignity of Archbishop and made him a papal nuncio. Monsignor Thevenin is based at the Vatican, and expect to see him named nuncio to a specific country soon. The Pope also appointed 2 consultors to the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. Monsignor Angelo Zani is the Secretary for the Congregation for Catholic Education, and Father Achim Buchenmeier is a Professor of Dogmatic Theology at the Pontifical Lateran University. The Archdiocese of Suva on the Fiji Islands has a new Archbishop, and he's coming from California. Father Peter Loy Chong is originally from Natovi, Fiji. He was ordained in 1992 and served in several Fijian parishes before going to the Jesuit School of Theology at the University of Santa Clara, where he received his doctorate in theology. Big news in the resignations department. The Chaldean Patriarch of Babylon, Cardinal Emmanuel Deli III, has resigned. According to canon law governing the Chaldean Church, his successor must be elected by Chaldean bishops, and the Pope then formally appoints that person as the next Chaldean Patriarch. A synod of Chaldean bishops will be held in Rome on January 28, 2013. And the head of the Congregation for Eastern Churches, Cardinal Leonardo Sandri, will preside over the synod. Until then, Archbishop Jacques Ishak will act as administrator of the Chaldean Church. Vatican Connections is interactive. We answer your questions and explain things you want to know. You can reach us on Twitter at VatiConnections or by email at info@saltandlighttv.org. We'll try our best to answer your questions during this part of our show. Let's go through the papal agenda for this week and see where he's been and what he's said. So, last Sunday, Pope Benedict celebrated Gaudete Sunday with the parishioners of San Patrizio in the Colle Prenestino neighborhood. Before celebrating the Mass, he greeted the families of the babies who had been baptized that year in the parish. During his homily, he talked about Advent as a time of joy because it awakens anticipation of the Lord's coming. He also told parishioners that the Eucharist should be the center of their personal lives and of the life of their community, and he urged them to take part in the sacrament of reconciliation during the season of preparation. After celebrating Mass in Colle Prenestino, he went back to the Vatican to lead the Angelus. On Monday, after his meeting with Mahmoud Abbas, the Holy Father had a special audience with the Italian Olympic Committee. Now, among the group were Italian athletes and medal winners from the London 2012 Summer Olympic and Paralympic Games. The Pope said every sport requires fairness in competition, respect for one's body, and a sense of solidarity and altruism. He condemned doping, saying the pressure to achieve important results must never drive people to take shortcuts like doping. He said coaches, administrators, and team owners are called to be witnesses of the good of humanity. He also encouraged the athletes to read about Pier Giorgio Frassati, describing him as a young man who merged his passion for sports with his passion for God. One important meeting that almost went unnoticed, the Pope met with 3 retired cardinals. Now, they're not just any 3 cardinals, though. Cardinals Herranz, Tomko, and De Giorgis are the 3 men the Pope appointed to investigate the VatiLeaks incident. The Pope's former butler and the IT expert for the Secretary of State have both been tried and found guilty of different charges, making it seem as though the case is closed. Vatican watchers say it appears the cardinals continued their work throughout the summer, looking into the internal dynamics that led to the leaking of private documents. It's believed that at this week's meeting, the 3 cardinal investigators delivered the outcome of their inquiry, which could result in personnel changes at the Vatican in the future. And it's time for another segment I call Roman Profiles. This week we bring you a look at the Vatican's Floreria. That's the department that takes care of the practical side of the Vatican, making sure every apartment and office is furnished and that the basilica is ready for papal liturgies.
Ora pro nobis, Sancte Basili, ora pro nobis, Sancte Martine.
Watching a Mass from St. Peter's Basilica, it seems like not a detail is forgotten and everything is in exactly the right place. It takes a team of 12 men from the Floreria to set up and take down everything needed for a papal liturgy. They put out about 8,000 chairs in the basilica, plus everything the Pope needs for the celebration. That's not the only thing the Floreria does. The department is also responsible for all the furniture in the Vatican, from the concelebrants' chairs in the basilica, to the furniture in private apartments, to the frames in the Vatican museums. New Vatican residents get to shop from the Floreria's warehouse of furniture. It is free for all Vatican residents. The only thing he or she pays for is any restoration work. Considering that most of the furniture is considered antique, it often requires some refurbishing. The textile department handles anything and everything to do with fabric. 2 religious sisters and a lay woman sew curtains, recover cushions, and prepare fabrics for reupholstering. They have a stock of fabrics that the average seamstress only dreams of. The woodworking department prepares tables, chairs, dressers, and desks for new life. The gilding lab restores furniture for a wide range of uses. Concelebrants' chairs for papal masses come here to be refinished. Frames from the Vatican museums come here for refinishing as well. It's a slow, almost meditative process. The gilder uses special tools to avoid bringing the gold leaf in contact with the oils from his skin. The gold leaf is so thin, a little static and a gentle breath of air are all it takes to make it stick to the wood being gilded. Once that's done, he uses gemstone tools to finish the process and draw out the natural golden shine of the foil. Another worker lacquers the newly refinished piece to make sure the color is even and nobody can tell any work has been done. All of this goes on every day inside Vatican walls, so effectively and efficiently that no one ever notices. That's it for this edition of Vatican Connections. We'll be back with you January 11th with all the latest updates from the Apostolic Palace. Over the Christmas holidays, stay tuned to Salt and Light for exclusive coverage of papal masses. On Christmas Eve at 4 p.m. and midnight, we bring you Christmas Eve Mass from St. Peter's Basilica. If you're out west, that's 1 p.m. and 9 p.m. Pacific Time. On Christmas Day, we'll bring you the Pope's Urbi et Orbi blessing at 4 p.m. Eastern or 1 p.m. Pacific. On New Year's Eve, we'll bring you the Pope's First Vespers and Te Deum celebration at 11 a.m. Eastern and again at midnight. And on New Year's Day, we bring you Mass from St. Peter's Basilica for the Solemnity of Mary, Mother of God. Finally, on January 6th, we bring you the Pope's Mass on the Solemnity of the Epiphany, and that's at 6 p.m. Eastern. Now that's all for this edition of Vatican Connections. I'll be back with you January 11th, and I'll leave you with this rare glimpse at Christmas preparations going on inside St. Peter's Basilica. See you next year.